There we go. All right, now we're recording. So like I said, I'm just trying to get this initial profile. Need to go ahead and kind of pull out another face over here on this side. So I can grab that face. I'm gonna hit Control E to extrude. Pull it out that way. Additionally, if you go under the modeling tools, go up to edit mesh, there's an extrude option as well. So you can go either direction. Control E is the hotkey, or you can go under edit mesh. So it's a little bit of a perspective shift on the picture, but if you look at the back of that foam piece, it actually cuts just straight off. There's no rounding to it. So it kind of tapers in, but then it just cuts straight down. Where here, it kind of looks a little bit like it just kind of rounds out. But if you look at the actual model, you can see that. And if you guys are getting to a part where you're not sure, please feel free to come up here and take a look at the tool. Like even if I'm just up here talking, come up here and take a look at it. I do need to straighten these out. So I'm actually going to grab both of these sets of vertices. I'm going to grab scale. I'm going to scale them in to where they're basically lining up. And I like to do that trick a little bit here and there, just to kind of align everything as I go along. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm not sure if I have any good top facing pictures. Let's take a look and see if there's anything that we can use. Doesn't look like I have anything that's useful. Okay, we'll make it. So the actual handle itself is not completely round. It's almost kind of like if I took a cross section of it, it would almost look like the letter D. It has kind of a flat back to it, but then it rounds off on the upper side. So what I can do to kind of try to achieve that is grab the bottom set of vertices that are on this, basically this bottom set of faces, extrude them out a bit, and then I can run a couple of edge loops. So I'm just going to put 3 in here. And I'm going to start building up that rounded profile as I'm going along. One of the things as I model, especially when I'm doing poly modeling, is I try to be as conservative as possible when I'm adding in vertices and edge loops. I don't like to add in a whole bunch. I like to add in 1 or 2 or 3 edge loops, go in, modify it, fix that shape, improve it, and then I might add in some more. One of the things when I started modeling when I was y'all's age is it's super easy to sit there and just add in a whole bunch of edge loops and go, oh, okay, I'll fix it as I'm going. But I run into an issue where I'm basically backing myself into a corner because I have so many vertices to work with, it can become overwhelming. Working from a low resolution approach, for me at least, keeps that overwhelming nature of modeling kind of down a little bit because I can refine the shape as I'm moving forward. Move that out. And there's almost never going to be a vertex that I'm adding in here that I don't touch and move at least once. Because otherwise I would have to ask the question, what's the point of me putting that vertex in here in the first place? What does it do to support this shape that I'm building? Okay, so if I'm looking at the handle, there's a cut in on the bottom. Basically, so this lever can pass through and move freely. So I will need to cut that out, but it's kind of almost teardrop shaped. Move actually, you know what? It's been 16 years. Let's take the tape off. There we go. Ew. 16-year-old tape goo. Gross. The worst kind. All right. So the cut on the bottom here, there's a little bit of like a teardrop shape. It's kind of interesting. So it actually does connect on either side. It's just, yeah, it's just a little bit of an odd shape. All right. So that profile from front to back, I do have it kind of, see, it looks like it bulges a bit here in the middle. And then it's a very slight taper to the back. It almost feels like it's slightly comes in a little bit in the middle and then bulges back out. Do that. So add in an extra edge loop here. And I'm scaling not uniformly. I'm scaling from basically just one direction. So we're getting there. All right, the bottom of that handle definitely has a rounded bit to it. So we'll need to go ahead and start adding in some edges to accommodate that. So I want to add one end that hits right in the middle of this edge loop and then this edge loop. So we have basically an edge that's running down the bilateral symmetry of the tool. So remember, holding down shift allows you to snap those inserted edge loops to every 10%. So hold snap, find 50, and then insert it right there. So that'll give me a nice place to kind of start. I'll pull that down a little bit. And also, since we're working with symmetry, see where it says symmetry off right here? Let's go ahead and turn symmetry on. So symmetry on, I want to be able to work on one side of this model and have it also move the other side. So symmetry X is probably not going to work for me, but symmetry Z looks like that would work pretty well. So it's highlighting multiple pieces. It'll move them at the same time. That'll save you some time. So make sure you turn that on when you feel like it's needed. And then what that'll free me up and let me do is I can then take these kind of corner pieces and then start working on rounding out that bottom. Something like that. Here on the top, same idea. There we go. And then just kind of checking, see if anything looks weird. Like we're getting it. All right. So again, going back to that little hole in the bottom, I need to go ahead and cut that in. What might be an initial thought is to say, okay, I'm just going to go and take some faces and just delete them and say, okay, I'm done. That's it. But not really the best way. I want to be able to build that interior since there is a thickness to this shell that's on the handle. So I need to actually kind of start creating some topology that will support that shape that I need to be building here. And additionally, I also need to create a good topology that will allow me to avoid running extra edge loops throughout the rest of the body. So I'm trying to be conservative with my geometry. I don't want to go overboard with adding too much. Okay. So what I can do is essentially I'm going to go from, let's say, 1/6 of the way back to about 2/3 of the way back is where that hole is going to be. So I need to be able to create a shape that's going to allow me to essentially extrude in and then extrude upwards to create that cavity. So let's do that. I'm going to go and do a little edge loop right here, since I said that's going to be about 2/3 right there. Probably right here is a good spot to actually do the starting point. Somewhere right about here. And let's go and grab some starting faces. Something like that. There we go. And I'm going to extrude inwards. Okay, and that's where I'm going to start to build that hole from. Yes, ma'am. I'm just going to put up on YouTube, but the link will be on the playlist that's on Blackboard. So yeah. All right, we'll take that. And now we can go ahead and delete it. Now this will give us a shape that we can actually work with and kind of start to shape into that kind of teardrop shape that we have right here. Okay. So I'm going to grab these two vertices here, kind of pull them a little bit wider out. Pull these a little bit back and just kind of create that silhouette of that teardrop. And then make sure you're checking it from multiple angles to make sure that these new vertices that we've created and these new faces are actually staying kind of within the same profile, and they're not kind of going in a weird direction. So something kind of like that. All right. I'm gonna do an edge selection. I'm gonna select this hole right here. I'm gonna hit Control E, and I'm gonna hit W to select the move tool. I'll move it straight down, and that's gonna be starting to work on that thickness for that actual plastic shell that's here, or that, yeah, plastic rubber shell, whatever this is made out of. I'm going to do Control E again, and then I'm going to extrude it inwards, just like that. So there's going to be a bit of a lip that I'm creating here. And then if I hit 3, so I can see it in like a smooth view, you can see how it kind of rolls inwards. So it's smoothing inwards. Now here's the thing though. With that being a smooth, kind of almost like a fold, if you actually look at the cut that's right here, is that a smooth roll? That little hole in the bottom? So this bottom right here, where that teardrop shape is what I'm modeling. Is that a smooth roll, like a fold? Or does it sharply change direction inwards? Still in that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more sharp.
Exactly. So fold isn't going to be accurate, is it?
Yeah.
It's not good. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like I'm already getting,
It's like gross.
does not feel great.
Yeah. Well. Just think of it as like a decade's worth of art and creativity. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the existential.
Uses, creative view.
Ah, that's gross. That's just worse. All right. So I need to basically reinforce this harder edge that we have going on here, because this soft folded roll is not accurate. But additionally, it also needs to be smoother. Like these hard edges here for these corners aren't accurate either. I mean, it very much is a teardrop or eggplanty shape that we have here. So I'm going to put in what I call reinforcement loops. So I'm going to do multi-cut, and a reinforcement loop essentially allows me to create a harder surface or harder edge on a surface that I'm modeling. And it keeps it from essentially just, folding over like Jello, or stops making it look so marshmallowy, I guess I should say. And so I'll usually will add one right above and right below wherever that turn is going to appear. The closer that these edges are to the edge that is turning, the harder and crisper that edge is going to be. Yes, ma'am. Hit 3. Did it work? Oh, to go to 1. So you'll see here that we kind of have a decent little edge going on here. You'll see if I add another one right below, boom, makes it much sharper than it was before. Especially if you can compare it to this edge right here. Very marshmallowy, very soft, comparatively speaking, to this edge, okay? So I can crisp up that edge and reinforce it. So now if we compare it, that looks good. Now, one thing I'll say is, I'll see sometimes you guys modeling in a smooth view, I don't recommend that. I recommend modeling primarily in your normal hard or flat view. Mainly because that's the accurate version of your model. Hitting 3 is good to check every once in a while, good to check, see how it looks, because eventually you probably will want to smooth it out anyways when you render it. It does have advantages, obviously. I can get a really nice curve right here, which is pretty awesome. But it's not where my actual vertex is. If I need to modify the vertex or modify a face, that's not where it's actually sitting. Vertex is actually sitting back here, even though smooth view is showing it up here. So you get some really bizarre models by just solely editing it in a smooth view approach. So I would get your model as close to what you want it to look like in a just a regular flat view, and then check it in smoothing every once in a while. Okay. All right, so that'll work. Having said that, we do have this front right here that I want to reinforce. And that back end, I'm going to reinforce as well. And actually, there is a hole in the back where this screw goes into. So that little hole right there. Now, could be hard to say you have to model that screw hole as well, but no, you don't see it, so let's not worry about that. I do want to model some sort of hole, but I'm not going to worry about the threads, mainly for the fact that as light hits the back part of this tool, there is a slight fold in of that recess in here where light's going to create a little bit of a shadow. So it's good to not just have this bolt actually just go straight into a flat surface. You want to have some sort of hole or something for it to actually go into to get that shading to look a little bit more accurate. Now, if you were doing this for, like, again, product visualization where you need to show the engineering of it, you would want to model this. But for this project, I wouldn't worry about it. So let's create that hole real quick. Now we have a couple of different options. The simple way is going to be grab these back faces and let's see. Extrude them inwards and create the hole that way. Be careful of the faces you select. So extrude them down and then extrude them in that way. That can create the hole if you want to. You would want to be careful to make sure you actually are modeling a come here. Modeling this to be pretty circular. I mean, this is relatively circular, but it's not like perfectly circular. So you'd want to probably take a reference piece, say like an actual cylinder. And use that to figure out the scale and the scope of this bolt that's going in here. And then create that recess based off of this. So that's about the diameter of the piece. So you could go off of that if you wanted to. And this would be, fairly straightforward. Let's see, turn back on. I mean, that would work. And then you could push that in and create the hole that way. And continue. Another way, and I'm not saying either one of these ways is really better than anything else, but there is something to consider, is using what's referred to as booleaning. Have you guys ever done booleans before? Has anyone ever heard the term boolean or boolean? Boolean. So that is referring to, if you guys ever use Illustrator, I mean, in FDA, you guys all went through and hopefully, you know, passed FDA, right? Okay. So, you know, when either Chuck or whoever had you guys building shapes and then like combining shapes. So then those shapes essentially become like one larger piece that have like one discontinuous outline. You know what I'm talking about? No? Okay. Okay, never mind. Okay, I'm trying to like make a through line here with using the pen tool and creating shapes and combining stuff. All right, anyway, never mind, that was a failure. Let's go back. So booleaning essentially is a way to build meshes using essentially additive, subtractive, or intersective properties of having a main starter piece and then whatever is the modifier. So say, for example, I could take this handle piece right here. I could take this cylinder and I could go up to mesh, booleans, union, difference, or intersection. Now, keep in mind that these are two very separate pieces. They have essentially, I literally just jammed one piece into the other. So it's, yeah. So there's definitely some negative space in here. But if I go into mesh booleans and do union, it looks like really nothing changed. Maybe they combined. But if I go inside, whatever was inside has been deleted. And these are now one shape. Okay. I see some stunned faces.
No, it's just very interesting. I always thought like you needed to match their faces in the vertices, like exactly to be able to get them to combine. So this is just very new.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you why this is really bad. It's not bad. I'm going to show you why it's a messy way of modeling.
Okay.
But let me back up a second. So if I do this and then I'll do a difference, it'll cut a hole. Okay. If I do intersection, it'll show the intersection piece. Okay. So for me personally, like 95% of my modeling is done in a program called ZBrush. And I use this method to do a lot of my hard surface modeling. So a lot of my tools, dioramas, vehicles, stuff like that. It's a really good way for me to like kit bash things together to get something really complicated really, really fast. Just to kind of get greebles in. Does anyone know what greebles are? They're just like little mechanical pieces that add like surface detail. So kind of like model kits, like they have little bits of greebling. Yeah. So it's a pretty useful way of going about it. However, doing it from a poly modeling perspective, booleaning can be a real pain in the ass because we have to pay attention to topology. So let's say if I go in and do that difference again, you know, it's pretty clean. Like it looks really clean. Now the problem is if I hit 3, it doesn't look as clean. It kind of just rolls in and we got a lot of weird folding going on here. What we're seeing is essentially a whole bunch of n-gons. You guys remember n-gons from last class? So tris are faces that have how many faces or how many edges? 3. Quads, 4. And n-gons are everybody else. So the n-gons here, they are tricky. You want to stay away from n-gons because they do not render or smooth out predictably. And we want predictability here, especially on stuff that we might be animating. Now, an object like this that we will probably never animate, it's questionable if it's really that important. But for this class, it absolutely 100% is. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to this topology. Now, going about and, moving the little vertices and creating that hole manually, you get predictable topology because we moved it into a circle, we extruded it back, everything's nice and even, everything's quads or tris. By doing the Boolean, we get essentially the topology of that original cylinder shoved into the topology of the handle that we're creating. So we would need to account for that. And so you brought up the comment of you thought that you always had to make sure everything matches together before you use Booleans. Completely valid, because that's a good way to make sure you are minimizing the workload you have after the Boolean process. So in some cases, it might be easier for you to model a hole by simply just making a circular shape of vertices, grabbing those faces and extruding backwards. It might be easier for you to take a cutter, like a cylinder, using that as like a cookie cutter and create the hole that way. And then just kind of go in and fix the topology afterwards. It really depends on kind of what you feel like you want to deal with, what you have time for. So it's not really it's messy, but you also get you get a nice result. Like that's nice and circular. I dig it, but you have to clean it up. So let's talk about cleanup. So what I would do is I would go in and start merging vertices to go ahead and just kind of make this a little bit easier to work with. So for example, these two right here are pretty dang close. So I believe we have a stitch tool we can use. Let's see. Merge, there we go. Merge, target, weld tool. There we go. So target weld, since the cylinder is kind of what my target was, the shape I was going for, I don't want to mess that up. That's kind of the point of this exercise. So I'm going to go from the edge loop that's kind of coming through here. I'm going to cut and I'm going to click and drag from that vertex over to the one that is essentially coming from the cylinder. I believe that one's already good. I have symmetry turned on, so that one should be fine anyways. Okay, we'll go ahead and merge that one. All right, I'll move that one over. That's already good. We're good there, good there, good there. Okay, so we've taken care of a few of these. We still need to work with some of the others. Okay. So I need to take essentially this vertex and I need to deal with it in some way because this is an n-gon. I kind of would like to honestly have a nice clean face loop that's going around that hole so I can actually have it kind of reinforced to make it look a little bit cleaner. Trying to turn this into a bunch of tris, which the first inclination might be like, just do that, done. I get it, but it's not very clean. We kind of want to avoid that. We're trying to be a little more efficient here. So I'm going to take this, go back out here. I have a lot more room to play around with back here. And I'm going to go over to here in the middle. And then I have other vertices that I can kind of deal with. So I need to think about them and where they need to go. So I'm going to go out here and just kind of like playing like 4D chess here. Eventually, I'm going to need to connect this guy to someone, probably one of these two. probably this guy. This one has nothing to connect into, so he could be a good candidate to connect up here. This one will probably connect into here, and this one will connect somewhere out here. So it might make sense to do a loop that goes around. So it kind of does something like that. Now, I am knowingly introducing more n-gons, but I will deal with this. These are controlled n-gons. Yes.
Sorry, why can't you just attach it to that one small ring on the outside? Why did you have to make the outer ring too?
Are you talking about like connecting from here to here?
Yeah, why didn't you just? do
So when I hit 3, it's going to smooth out. I want to be able to sharpen up this edge. And if I have a try right here, by running in an edge loop along this face loop, that will terminate wherever there's a three-sided face. So there being a try here, that's going to terminate that face loop. I want to have a clean edge loop that's going to go all the way around it. So that means I need to try to maintain those series of faces going around. You'll see when I'm finished, it'll make a little more sense. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just wondering as a visual reference, what would it look like if it was just like a tri-face?
So here, we'll do it. So like that, that's the inclination. It'll look roughly the same, but eventually I want to go in and do an edge loop here to kind of reinforce it, but then I also want to do an edge loop here. But the try is going to terminate that edge.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm not going to be able to run it easily around.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's the problem that we're discussing here. But
okay.
all right, so we'll get rid of this in a minute. All right, so I'm bringing this around. Let's go ahead and connect these two. So that'll give us kind of a nice phase loop we're working with here. Want to go across and go across, go up to here. So again, we need to connect down to that edge. Remember, this one was just an example, so we're getting rid of that. So let's double check we got that one taken care of. Now I need to take care of some of these up here. And in a way, I'm kind of almost moving these n-gons away from that area. So I have one right here. But I am taking care and tying some of these away. Okay, check out. I think that takes care of all the edge or the n-gons right here. And then these guys, I'm gonna take this. And come on. Why are we not doing that? Sometimes this tool can get a little weird when we're changing sides. So is there something wrong with space? That's fine. I'll just connect that up in a second. Here. Object Z, there we go. So I'm going to kind of run this up and over, back down into itself. Ooh. That's interesting. It's not actually hooking into the edge. Wonder if I have an extra face loop in here. Yep. See that? So I was having that issue with the multi-cut tool. It wasn't wanting to connect and wrap around that, that edge very well. The reason why is because I had an extra face. You see that? As I'm pulling this down, there's this extra face right here. So I'll need to get rid of that. Go and delete that. See if it looks like it does anything weird. Just hoping that I don't have any extra faces in here that I'm not aware of. Probably how that happened was when I was hitting Control E, I was kind of backtracking a little bit as I was talking, and I may have missed me hitting Control E an extra time. So there was probably an extra extrusion in there at some point.
Love those surprise pieces.
It happens. It happens. They're a surprise.
And this video will be, like, we could find it, the link to it on Blackboard.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go watch it. I think I need to redo that, that's all.
So go to edit mesh and merge. Okay, there we go. All right, so this one right here, I'm gonna go ahead and terminate that end gun. And basically then we'll take that end gun and split it into two quads. So that what was one face is now gonna be three quad faces. And that's, I kind of refer to this as a corner to corner method, since essentially what I'm doing is I'm sectioning off like roughly a fourth of that face to take care of that quad that that end gun that I'm trying to fix, or that extra edge loop that the end gun is creating. And then I'm taking the corner of that new face and I'm connecting it to the corner of the face that I'm essentially sectioning from. So again, it's corner to corner right here. And I'm doing it in a spot that's what I consider to be not damaging to the model. So it's something that's not going to be flexible or super visible. Yeah, it's just a place, it's just a way to terminate that extra edge. So for example, I can do this here. I may have an extra one in there. So let's actually take and make sure we don't have. See. There we go. There it is. Yeah. We can actually try to fix it if we go and grab vertices. And what I'm going to do is go to mesh or edit mesh merge. And then I'm going to do a threshold of 0. Because essentially vertices with like 0 space between them can't actually have a face exist. So that's just going to be too small. So I'm going to hit apply. And we'll see if that fixes it. We'll take this. There we go. See that? Now it's working. Cool. So again, that was literally just me grabbing the vertices I was having an issue with, doing a merge, threshold set to 0. 0 is important because anything above a 0, you might actually take multiple vertices you don't want to merge and they might stick together. So not good. Don't do that. Set it to 0. All right, so this one's going to go up to here. And corner to corner. So this one's still having that issue too. Let's get rid of that. Do a little bit of reconstructive surgery on here since there was that mistake made. Let's see, I'm gonna grab the edge loop that's going around this hole. Let's do a fill hole right here under mesh. And then we're gonna do multi-cut and then just cut back across. And we're just reconstructing those edges that we lost when I deleted that face. See, good as new. And I want to take this one, go from corner to corner. There we go. Okay. What are you doing here? Oh. Symmetry wasn't working the way it should. Let's do. Okay. Give you a little bit of a thresholds to 0.1. Okay. So this makes it a little bit easier to see the actual issues. Just going through and smoothing it out. All right, delete that edge. Looks better. Let's turn off symmetry just to make sure we're not messing up. And actually, it may even be easier just to delete half of this model and just duplicate it over if you're running into this issue quite a bit. You guys know how to do that? No? Let's do it. Well, there's a few different ways to do it. There's some newer ways that Maya's put in that work fairly well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete half the model, which this is another reason why I like to put in bilateral symmetry lines. Makes it so much easier to actually delete the faces or delete half the model. So I'm gonna delete the bad side. Okay. I'll take the good side. And double check, your origin point should be basically in the center of the model where it started from. I'm gonna go over to edit, duplicate special. And duplicate special in here, it has a lot of really cool uses. But just for really just basic use right here, in order to do a mirror over, it needs to mirror over whichever axis is going left and right for you. So right now this handle is facing down the X axis. So it means left and right for me is going to be the Z axis. And I know this by looking at this little handle right here. So if I look at duplicate special, I have scale, which means if I do a duplicate, it's going to scale it whatever amount I tell it to. So if I say scale of 2, it'll take that duplicate and scale it twice. Or if I do it scale of -1, that means it'll flip it over to the other side and basically mirror it. So if I do a scale of -1 here, it's going off of X, Y, and Z coordinates. That's why you have 3. But I don't necessarily need to be doing X. So really this should just be scale of 1, X, Y, Z. So this needs to be -1. And I just need 1 copy. Hit OK. Now I have my duplicate. It's 2 separate meshes. I can go ahead and combine them. Again, they're still technically separate, but I need to take those vertices. I go to edit mesh, merge. Threshold is 0, merge. Hit 3, let's check and see everything looks good. Yeah, looks like it works. Okay, so that's just a really quick way to mirror it over. There is also, and this is, and I say this is the way that I'm used to doing it, because like when I learned, this was in 2009. They did add a newer method where you can go over, I believe it is it mesh mirror? Yeah, they do have a mirror option on here as well. And you can mirror it over whatever axis you want also. So there is a newer tool set that basically will do the same thing. So there's a couple ways of doing this. All right. Any questions at this point? Yes, ma'am.
How did you do that all the bottom my approach you did it?
Talking about this one,
No, for the screen.
this. So there was 2 different methods. One was using a Boolean approach, which was where I was sitting there and basically cut that hole using Boolean. And then I had to go through and like fix all of the topology. The first method that I demoed was basically I just did an extrusion straight back and then just rounded out the hole manually. So those are the 2 methods. They're both going to be on the video if you need more detailed explanations. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, what? Well, you have to select a first shape and then the modifying shape. So you have to have 2 actual shapes to do it. Yes,
Sorry, could you go back to that angle you were, is that a gap right there?
this right here?
Yeah.
It looks like it. Sneaky little bastard.
How do you get away with it?
I would have gotten away for him if it wasn't for you damn kids. And blasted dog too. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, this one. Okay. So some of these might need a little bit more of a threshold to actually merge onto if they weren't perfectly on top of each other. So we can do 0.00001 and just give it a little bit of something.
That looks like it made a big difference.
Yeah, it looks like it did. Like 0 is like if they're like right on top of each other. Like 0.001 if as if they're like really, really close. Okay. All right. So let's finish up the handle with what do we got? We do have the screw. Let me do this little piece right here, this little plastic piece, since that's kind of been set. That'll be a real quick one, and then we can do the screw and then continue on from there. All right. So this little plastic piece, I made this whole thing about saying, we need to make sure we keep these pieces separate since they're different materials. This piece is essentially going to be like entirely foam, or I don't know, whatever this rubber foam, it feels like foam, but whatever this material is, but we have this yellow plastic in there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take a duplicate by hitting Control D. And I'm essentially going to delete everything but like the front end. Merge, why do you keep coming up? Go away. Okay, so we just got this little piece right here. I'm gonna go to Modify, Center Pivot. And let's shrink this just a little bit. Bring that out. And actually, it doesn't need to be shrunk. It's just like slightly smaller. It's not even that much smaller. So let's go ahead and make it a bit deeper. So something kind of like that. Now, let's see. This is pretty straight. It looks like it's kind of angling out a bit more than it should. Let's look back at our reference. Oh yeah, that's way more than it needs to be. So let's take these vertices, straighten them up. Take the back vertices, straighten them up. Yeah. That always gets like a reaction out of you guys. I'm surprised that y'all don't figure that out or aren't taught that. And wait till you get into shading, lighting, and rendering, and I start doing this like the UVs. I have students in there that had me for advanced, and they're like, "You can do that with UVs?" I'm like, yeah. You hate UVs?
I think UVs are fun. I don't know why. I did like them.
I had too many bad experiences.
Well, wait till you open up ZBrush and you just do automatic UV mapping, and you're like, done. Click. Did Rosario show you that? Have you taken SLR yet? Oh,
I had Rosario.
did he show you that?
I don't think so.
Did I show you that on a video in there?
Probably, but
don't-
I remember using Substance Painter.
That's all you remember from that entire class.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I got to use ZBrush anyways,
I
so
was told to take shading lettering in that class.
probably best.
It's not that bad. I really enjoy it.
It's probably like,
Honestly, I think it's easier than this class.
yeah, I've heard it's easier than this. Probably why I picked it before this class anyways.
But I don't even think this class is hard. I think it's fun. So that's me.
It's fun to reduce stuff.
All right. So yeah, we're just making that little shape right here. It's not 100% to scale, but it'll work. Okay, hit 3. See how that kind of smooths into it? And that kind of smooths into. I want this to be a little bit crisper. So let's do, actually, you know what? Let's do bevel. Who doesn't love a good bevel? Communists, that's who doesn't like beveling.
You don't like W.
I don't know. All right, I'm gonna, yeah, so I'm just right mouse, shift, bevel edge. You'll get this little thing right here. And fraction, change however big that bevel's gonna be. I'm gonna do 3 segments. Get a little preview of what that looks like. Looks good. Fun note. If you smooth an object, if it has a open end, that end stays crispy. It doesn't like deflate or anything. So, this piece right here, it's literally just gonna be a cap. I don't really need faces back here. So you can delete them and it'll still stay, yeah, it'll still keep its shape pretty well. So I find that useful. Bevel edge, segment, fraction down, hit 3. There we go. And then we'll need to do a fold on the inside since this is a sheath that's going over the metal. I'm gonna go and take these faces. When you're selecting faces, just keep an eye on what you're actually selecting. You may think you only have the piece or the stuff that's actually facing you selected, but it's entirely possible for you to like accidentally select through a mesh and select something else. So just be careful about that. That's, yeah, while you're holding shift, while you're selecting the faces, sometimes people get a little click happy and yeah, you end up getting stuff you don't really need. Eventually you'll learn. But today is not the day. I don't know what it was when I first started learning. I think I had like a stroke or something when I was like using keyboards because I just like would randomly like click things and I would do things. I had no idea how I was doing it. I don't know how I got there. It was really bizarre. At some point it stopped, but like literally I would just like click random buttons while I'm sitting there working on the computer and I wouldn't even know what I'm doing. Yeah. It's like auto idiot is what it is. All right. Nobody's gonna see that. Let's delete it. Exactly. That's right. You ain't see shit. Don't worry about it. All right. So yeah, so that's gonna work. That's gonna be essentially the sheath. Kind of looking at this, it looks like it actually kind of rolls inwards. There's a sharp edge on the outside of that profile, but it does kind of roll inward. So I think I'll keep it like that. Something kind of like that. Let's say it kind of rolls inward like that. So I think that'll work. Okay. Actually, the back end of this handle gets pretty round also, so probably be a good idea for me to fix that before we get too far. And this might be a good place to talk about soft select.
Oh,
This would be a good place to talk about our sponsor, NordVPN.
no.
So Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So soft select, if you just press B as in boy, and I'll turn on and off soft select. If you go to your tool settings, so like double clicking the move tool, for example, if you go down to soft select, you can change the profile of that soft selection in here. You can also turn on and off soft select. If you hold down B as in boy in the middle mouse drag, that will change the size of soft select. Okay. Soft select is good for making fairly large changes to a mesh to change its shape without doing it vertex by vertex by vertex. Okay. What? Are you
I
okay?
tried to merge vertices on a certain piece of this twice, and it has crashed by it twice. It's the, I don't know what to call it, the grit part of the vice grip, not the grit, but like,
The handle?
no, the inserts.
The jaws?
Yeah, the jaws. I tried to merge a vertice and it just said, no, they don't error.
Delete your history. Yeah, delete your history every once in a while. So you'll see here, I'm building up a crap ton of history. You're doing something that is not liking. So delete your history every once in a while. And that should help you out with that.
Yeah.
I was wondering what soft select was. For some reason, there was some point where I kept turning it on and I had no idea what the heck it was.
Again, that's one of those, randomly hitting buttons on the keyboard, doing things that you're not sure what it is. You'll be amazed at the tools you find by doing that.
It's like, what is this random thermal vision that I'm seeing on my object? What is this?
Oh, I think I did that once in like Control 3D and then I was like, no.
Yeah,
No, scary, go away.
I was like, I don't know what this is doing. You know what? I'm never gonna use this again. Go away. And I-
Edward didn't tell me, oh no.
I was like, why is everything different colors? I don't like it.
well, I guess I'll fail.
I mean, here's the fun thing, like, you can change your colors.
Oh,
I know, that was the problem. I was like, why is everything shades of blue?
Look at this, what color do you want? What's your color, man? We'll do all the colors, look at that.
A rainbow now.
It's a rainbow.
I think I was like working on like a very complex, it was like one of the final models. It's like, I have like 2,000 vertices on this model, and now everything's moving and it's red. What's happening? And I was at home and I was like, I can't just text Edward, it's 2 AM. What do I do?
I just have to like Google it and figure out what the frick is this and how do I turn it off?
Well, I did that and I was like, I'm getting nowhere. Because I didn't know what to do.
Was it the robot one?
Yeah, it was the robot. I was like,
Same thing.
also I got like in trouble because I couldn't make the arms do what I wanted. It's just like, I give up.
All right, let's make a bolt. Let's do edit, delete all by type, history. That's my go-to if like anything slows down. As I'm modeling, I delete history like once an hour or so, and it usually keeps things a little bit healthier. Okay. All right, so this bolt is going to be interesting. So we got essentially a helix. I'm going to probably make it composed of a helix. That's going to be the actual screw part. And then we have the head on it, which has these little indentions. That honestly to me is more challenging than this part. Just because there's a lot of complexity in there, so that'll be kind of interesting to see how we do that. But it'll be fun. It's a challenge, it's a puzzle. A learning experience, yes, exactly. So a couple different ideas on creating those threads. I said I was going to do the helix, but I do want to maybe discuss another approach that might also work. Because honestly, either one of these could work. So I'm going to take a cylinder and I'm going to go into its inputs over here. And you'll see where we have a radius. I can change the radius. I can change the height. I can change the subdivisions. And subdivisions, heights, and of the cap. All right. So one thought that I could do is I could take, let's see. I could take a base loop on here. And essentially I could do, yeah, so I could do something like that. I don't need the bottom or the top. Could extrude it out. And then kind of pinch it a little bit, okay? So something kind of like that. So that's like one thread. Clearly a screw needs to have the threads twisted. So I can go up to, let's see, surfaces, deform. Yeah, deformers right here. And then I'm going to go under deformers. Let's go to nonlinear. And these nonlinear deformers are actually kind of interesting. You have a bend deformer, which if I grab the bend deformer, it's just this curve right here, this line. And it's attached essentially, since I had this object selected, it's attached to this cylinder, okay? So if I take this bend deformer, click on it on the inputs for bend, I have envelope, curvature, low bound, high bound. I can go to curvature and I can bend. Okay. Now the fun thing is I can take that and bend it multiple ways. And depending on its distance away from the object, it will change the angle of the bend. Any ideas what I could do with this? Well, eventually, but maybe thinking outside the screw. What does that look like? A donut, a tire, a link in a chain? You can make all sorts of stuff. I can also go under and make a flare. And I can move that around. Now, what does that look like? Yeah, exactly. So if I was doing a Looney Tunes-esque version of like a snake eating a mouse, an ostrich eating a watermelon, or just having someone moving through pipes, that literally could be how you would do it. You could absolutely do it for sure. Okay. Sine wave. Any ideas on what you could do with this one? Yeah, you could. So I have used this to create a, I guess the simplest explanation would be a flying flatworm type of dragon. So it's kind of like a Chinese dragon where like they kind of like snake their way through the air. So I didn't want to animate that. So that looks hard as hell. So I attached the rig to the sine wave deformer and I essentially had it following this sine path. Made it easy. Okay. Back to business. Twist. Now, this one might give us a good option for creating that screw. So I have the start angle, end angle. That looks kind of screwy to me, right? So that could work. The topology on this is a little low because I'm basically twisting this thing and there's just not enough segmentation in here to really develop and like support the number of edges that I need for this, but it's an option. This could work. So if I needed to do it, I might want to add some more topology or more or high resolution to this model. So one way I can do it is go under mesh, smooth, and we'll do that a couple of times. And so now I basically just took the face count and like upped it a whole bunch. And then I'm going to go back under the deformers. I have it right here, nonlinear, twist, and we'll see if this gives me a better result. It's a little bit smoother. So that could work. So yeah. What do you think? Now, is this easier than sitting here and modeling the whole thing by hand?
Better than trying to figure out how to freaking make a foil.
You're back there like, yeah, I could probably do it better, just whip it out in a few minutes.
That's a lot easier than trying to figure out how to make a coil and trying to attach it to a cylinder. The most painful way possible, probably.
So let's explore that helix option. So let's see what that looks like. Because honestly, I kind of like this. This actually kind of works as like a proxy.
I think that's a good idea.
So I can take is somebody singing?
Yes.
Would you mind closing the door, please?
I was questioning for a while if I should close the door because I have no idea what's going on.
What's the song they keep playing from like the new season of Stranger Things? It's like the song from yeah, it's like the song from the 80s. It wasn't super popular, but now it's popular. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I ran into a gaggle of teenagers at Walmart that were like singing that throughout Walmart, and I wanted to just. It's like it's a nice song, but you're ruining it worse. You're not making it better. Get off my lawn.
You're freaking people, how dare you?
All right, I'm gonna put that on a layer. Let's hide that for a second. Let's take this piece right here. And we will give it a height. And then additionally, let's go under create, polygon primitives, helix. by the way. Helix is this. And under Helix's inputs, we can change the number of coils. We can change the height. We can change the radius. And then subdivision axes. So that's gonna make it a little more spring-like. But I need like a sharper edge, right? Since this screw here has a little bit of a sharp edge on it. So maybe something like that. Subdivision on the coil. It's gonna be pretty smooth, so I'm gonna probably want that.
I love finding random vertices.
All right. So the idea is I'm gonna essentially take a cylinder and this whatever this thing's called, helix, and essentially glue them together, basically through ballooning, and we'll see how this works. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Bryson, you just spent like 20 minutes like fixing topology on a single hole that you put into that shape. I don't want to sit here for 2 hours while you sit here and dick around with topology on this one. I have a fix. I have a plan. So I'm just going to take this and bring it out to right about there. Let's go a little bit heavier with the coils. So something kind of like that. And then let's go back to create. Cap. Now, what I'm planning on doing is testing to see how good a newer feature in Maya is. They have this new kind of auto topology tool that they put out in 2020. I think actually 2022 is the first version it was out in. It's under mesh. This one right here, retopologize. I kind of want to test and see how good it is.
Random question for you.
Yeah,
To save or does it not matter?
to save.
Like, with what you have so far, or does it not matter to you?
I've already saved it.
Okay.
I've actually been saving them.
Oh,
as I've been
I
going
thought
along.
auto save, my bad.
I'm not even auto saving. I'm just hitting Control S. My hand auto saves.
Better than I do, I just click.
Like a bizarre twitch. You ever like save something and then like save it immediately right afterwards? It's like, oh, probably need to save it again. Did I save it? I'll save it again. Did it really save? I don't know.
I think it's just me from like, I don't know how much trauma I had, like, trying to save something and then it just crashes. That's mostly from hard programs.
Mm-hmm. You guys want to hear about how I almost wanted to kill my cat willingly?
What?
So when I was in grad school, I was working on a film for about 2 years. And so I had my desktop at home and I was starting to render out the film, and I was rendering on computers at school. And so I was backing up my data. I had my external hard drive and my computer, and I was actively like making a new backup. And then everything turns off. My cat got onto the power strip and pressed the button.
Sounded like it had a
I almost considered opening the door and throwing that cat out the door. I'm not even joking. And technically speaking, it wasn't my cat. It was my, at the time, girlfriend's cat, who's now my wife. But So the cat's still alive. She still lives with us. So there's, but I almost had a mental breakdown because when I turned my computer back on, all the data on that external hard drive was corrupted because I was saving at that time and writing to it. All the data on my computer was gone. So the only thing that saved me for 2 years of work is the fact that I was rendering stuff right at that moment on computers at school. And this was like at 11:30 at night. So I went straight to the university, went into the lab, and we had this thing where you could render, but people could also log on to the computer while it was rendering and still work.
Yeah.
So I told everyone to get the F off of those computers, and I went around and like grabbed all my files off the computers. So luckily, yeah, each
Oh my
one.
gosh.
I went to every single computer because I had divvied it up onto every computer, is because I was rendering. I had a shot on every single computer I was working on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes me think of the Gandalf video on every computer.
I was like, get the off. And they're like, what's wrong with you? I was like, get off.
I'll explain later, just get the frick off.
Anyway. I don't recommend doing that.
Eating your cat out the door or just
I don't recommend putting yourself in that situation. Like, don't allow for that situation to happen. It's not good. All right. Let's see.
that's why I guess. The true or tale of why would you framework please? Why would you have external hard drives to keep our data on?
It was an external hard drive.
I know.
There's nothing I could do. Now today I have everything on cloud storage. So at least if something happens to my computer and my external hard drives, I at least have that backup. But yeah, it's like, what the hell do you do? All right. I'm just trying to scale this up and get this to fit. Okay. Let's do a. You're not going, come on. Very useful.
But it has nothing to do with like. I think it was worse than normal statement, feel like it should have to.
Multicut, there we go. All right, reinforcing. Okay. Push in a little bit. Okay, so that's part of the screw, although I think that might be a little bit longer. And then we got this little detail. Here's a little texture. It's like a diamond pattern, I guess.
Should I see?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can look at it if you want to. I'm trying to figure out what would be the.
The best way to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a diamond. It's just a diamond. So what could work for this is we could take. So let's try it this way. Let's do. Come on, go back. Let's do insert edge loops. I can do multiple edge loops that way. Let's do edit mesh or no mesh tools, insert edge loop. And then multiple edge loops, number of edge loops. Let's do 5. There we go. And then turn off that. I'm gonna grab these faces. And I'm gonna do this in a few different sections, but you'll see kind of where I'm going with this. Okay. Control E. I'm gonna shrink them down. Kind of bring them out. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be kind of close-ish. You know what? Let's try. Let me see if we have this option. I think they do have the option in here for non-attached extrusion. Maybe I'm thinking of ZBrush. Extrude face. So what I'm trying to think of is, so if I do two different faces, obviously I can go in and shrink them, it'll shrink them individually. But if they are attached faces like these, like where they're actually touching,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to treat it like one face. And in ZBrush, when I do the same thing, I can tell it to treat them as individual faces or a singular face. It's nice to have that option, but I was thinking Maya may have had that option, but maybe they don't. So actually, modeling toolkit. Let me see if that has it. Modeling toolkit. Where'd you go? Mesh. Edit mesh. Mesh. Oh, here it is. It's already up. Modeling toolkit. There it is. I swear I remember I was like, yeah, it's been a long time. Okay, that actually will make things a little bit easier. Let me back up. Yeah, you'll see what I'm trying to go for. Okay, go to side view. Grab all of these. Extrude, keep faces together, off. Shrink it. This is one of those things where, I mean, I've been working this program for a while, but like when you work in a modeling program and you learn kind of the workflow, if you have to go work in another program for a studio, you need to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because then if you know what you want to do, usually you can find a way to do that. So like in this instance, my workflow is through ZBrush. I know what I want to do. I want to be able to take these faces and extrude them uniformly, all as one piece. Maya does have that option because it's a mature program. It's been around for a long time. It was escaping my mind how it worked at that moment. But there is that option, and that's good that it's there. So anyway, that's very useful. Okay, so what I need to do then is, since this is kind of a diamond, there's a little bit of a twist to it. Yeah. So I'm going to use that soft select. I'm going to want to spin it on here, but it's not giving me 100% turn on here. So let me try,
Do you need it back or do you just need me to confirm it?
confirm what? That it's diamond?
Like how it looks, I don't know.
I know how it looks. I can see it.
Oh. Oops.
Soft select. So you'll see that like some parts are turning a little bit slower than others. You see, as I'm turning this, there's a little bit of like a fall off here.
Yeah.
It's because if I look at the fall off curve right here, I need it to actually be a little bit straighter. So I'm going to do a smooth interpolation. So if I go to curve presets, see that straight line?
Yeah.
So now if I do that, see if it gives me a better, that's a much better. So something kind of like that. So it's not 100%. I mean, I could go in and physically model every single one of those little diamonds and like there's other ways to go about it, but that's just a quick way. Okay. Yes. All right. I want all this to be one piece. This is all one piece. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to save it first in case it crashes. It'll probably crash. I'm going to go to Boolean Union. Yeah, it didn't crash. But my topology sucks. So let's figure this out. So like I said, there's that retopologize button up here. I haven't messed around with this too much. I'm curious to see if this will work, if this will function really well. Hopefully it will. So the retopologize option is going to look at the surface of the mesh and it's going to try to create a new topology that supports the details, but without having n-gons and tries and things like that. It's going to give you a better result than what we have here. That's basically n-gon city. So you have a target face count you can set here. You have a tolerance to be how far above and below the face count is going to go. You have options for topology regularity, face uniformity on here. So there's things you can play with to try to get. There's things you can play around with to try to get different results. So if we just go with the standard, let's see what happens. So give it a second.
I feel like I need to say burning anything I have applied. I think it was just when you said my name, I'm just like, I need it for something.
You're more than welcome to fact check me all you want.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's not good. That's not what we want. Also, that cylinder did not get included in the Boolean. Let's do the Boolean. There we go. Okay. So that retopo did not look good. Let's try. Apologize. So basically we're gonna need more faces. So let's change it to 1000. Yes. The lowest of the polys. Didn't actually change anything. Let's try something else. Let's do a delete history. And let's do it one more time. Let's do preserve. Well, let's not do that.
That works.
Okay. I wouldn't think 1,000 faces would be too much for this tool, but apparently it might be. So let's see if we can lower it and see if we can get that to work. Although it has the retopo on here. Change that to 500. So read apologize. Let's do it incrementally higher. So was it 450? Let's click on read apologize. See if it gives us anything different. Because it did at least at 400, so maybe 1,000 is being ambitious. It really doesn't want to do it. Okay, that's fine. So maybe that's not the best option or the best avenue. But let me give you an example of kind of what it's supposed to do, since it's not really showing. So let's do create sphere. So we have all three of these. Let's go and go under mesh, booleans, union. And then we'll delete our history again. I'm gonna go under mesh. Apologize. So that's what it's supposed to do. So you see how the geometry here is way better than what we're getting here with like a whole bunch of like n-gons, since all of this is like this area up here is gonna be a lot of n-gons. That's what it's doing for us. That's what I was hoping it would do for us.
Possible it's not. Doing it again after like.
So I'm deleting the history on it, so it should be something we can go back and redo more easily. Because it's not attached to it. So it may be that what I'm giving it is just too complicated for what the tool is intended for. So let's try again. If I go back to read apology, let's see, mesh, read apologize. And then the idea is if I go up to say 1,000, it's going to give you a lot more faces and probably will preserve some of these crisper edges a little bit more. Yeah. No, that's the idea. Yeah. You can see where I'm going with it. All right. How about we take a break for a few minutes, guys? Get up, stretch your legs, get some water, go to the bathroom. And we'll come back and we'll start working on a new part of the model.
I guess I need to go back to the video. I'll take notes.
And by the way, the deformer, just make a duplicate and that'll be the piece you can use, because if you delete this, it'll just undo it. So just heads up.
It's like, it's like, another tool that does the same thing. You can just delete it and just go on.
Yeah, well, there's a history to it because it's connected. And so if you delete it, then it undoes whatever that tool or whatever that object deformer is doing.
Yeah.
And so you lose all that information.
Yeah, so if you just duplicate it, it's like, it still preserves.
But also deleting history also will preserve it as well. So it'll sever that connection.
That's right.
All right, I'll be right back.
I want to shoot myself, but it's fine. So much something. Yeah.
I love things. I don't know, it's something in mind.
Stuff that won't, but it makes sense.
Well, no, so.
This
like,
doesn't even have a St. John's.
So like this. has a-
It's
it's not- That was that. And so then this. And so like that's how I shaped it. Shaped the. Her severity relation spot that have a lot more stuff. Oh, yeah, no, I'm recreating it. It's just the reverse. I'm slowly, the face is back in like. I feel for me, I don't. Where you. I feel like every time I look at the birds, project was excluded. Yes, and I did that, very early on.
No, I shaped it.
Literally just on two spots.
That shit was a square.
To me. Something I was doing. And then I made it so that every time I create. It's not all the like. Yeah. That's not very weird.
Okay, so that bevel resulted in no echoes. So that's good. This one is just. I have 4 echoes here.
Like try to connect that version
There.
You get the 100.
Figure it out. So I don't think that we need to.
Yeah. Like if that's fine the way it is.
So I just wanted that curve. And now I need to do. That's not.
Okay.
Some bevel.
How did I hear about that part?
What, the teeth?
No, not the teeth, it's like the curve.
What
The-
curve?
Like, cause that part is like, of the ridge is like very curvy,
Hmm.
like on the handle.
How about this?
Yeah, trying to think of how to go about that. Well, that and like it going all the way around.
Well, I guess we'll cover that. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, shit.
He's been modeling this wrench for 7 episodes.
It's been 4 years.
Okay. Let's just go and do that part. Maybe it'll move a little bit faster for us. So let's do create cube. And grab the vertices, turn off that symmetry. Or not turn off symmetry, turn off soft select. Okay, so where's the wrench? Where are the pliers? Okay. So if I'm looking at this, the metal itself, that's all the.
Oh, like paper battery, one of them.
Yeah, so it's. So, the top jaw is pretty solid, the bottom jaw is pretty solid, but this piece right here is folded.
Yeah.
That's a fold going through it. So, I'm honestly just gonna model it like that. I'm not gonna try to do like cut a hole or anything, I'm just gonna model this as a folded piece. It'll actually, I think it'll be a little bit easier than trying to cutting sort of hole into it. And I'll show you how I'm approaching that. Okay. So I'm gonna go and take this face and this face right here. Delete it, and that's basically the fold. Okay, then I'll extrude it in, and that'll give me that thickness right here. Now, in terms of extrusions, I'm gonna have to extrude the edges, but not necessarily a face. So I'm gonna grab those edges, hit Control E, W to move, and I'm gonna move it out. And we'll move it out to about here. And I'll move it to right about there. Now, this curve right here. Multi-cut. Do 1, 2, 3. And then just basically pull down the vertices to match that. I'm not trying to make this into like a corner or anything, which is why like I'm having essentially the other side of the cube be present right here. I'm just letting this be just a curve. It's just kind of billowing it out just a little bit. And then kind of just go a little bit further back. And then each one of these, I kind of just match that profile just a little bit because it's just a very slight swoop of a curve right here. I'm doing drag selections, so I'm purposely selecting both vertices, even though visually I'm only selecting one. I'm making sure I'm grabbing both of these guys right here. Instead of just clicking. But clicking, I'm only grabbing one. But I make sure I'm grabbing both. Although I have symmetry on, so I guess it really doesn't matter, but if you don't have symmetry on, that's also a good thing to do, is just make sure you grab both. Push that back in. Push that back in. And then like right here, it kind of curves a little bit. I'm gonna do a bevel. And that'll kind of automatically match that curve. Do an extra segment. And then change. Basically, I'm using the fraction in the segments to kind of fit that curve as I need to. And anywhere I feel like I just need to add an extra one, I might add a bevel to it. Just to kind of add on. Okay. So there's if you look at the top, it gets narrow right here. It's wider down here. So we'll need to make sure we fit that as well. And grab the vertices. I'm gonna go and do soft select. Let's do. Kind of like that. And then it's rounded over the top of this. So we'll need to round off that top as well. I'll do a multi-cut insert edge. I'm gonna put it right here in the center at 50%, again, holding shift to pop it in there. So that'll give me something to kind of work against, knowing where that middle point is. And then let's turn symmetry back on. Now I need to round this out. I think I'm gonna do a little bevel to do that. Open up that fraction, add in a segment, and that kind of rounds it off nicely on the sides. Now it does kind of push these edges a little bit closer together. Again, anytime you get edges close together, that's going to reinforce that surface. Again, like the reinforcement loops we were talking about before. So you need to check it in your smooth view to make sure it actually looks good. If it doesn't, then you need to separate out these vertices here to kind of even it out and smooth it out. That might look something like this. It's pretty smooth. The curve is pretty smooth in the back, but you see how I'm getting a little bit of like a flat top right here versus here where it's curved over. So I need to kind of fix that. So soft slice can be a little bit hard to work with on that. It's not going to give me what I'm looking for. So I could go in and kind of move these individually. Or I could try to use a sculpting tool to do this. So if I go over to mesh tools, sculpting, smooth right here, and turn that on, I essentially have this tool I can use to go in and then smooth out a mesh. Now, this does, I believe, have brush sensitivity. So if you wanted to do something with a pen on a Wacom, you can do that. I will use this to kind of relax a mesh. So I'll go and I'll just click gently. You can change your brush size. Half the time when I use this, like my brush size is like freaking massive. So I have to go and change it like something low, so like 0.5. Can actually use it. Strength usually is maybe a little bit higher than I would like, so a lot of times I'll go in and work with this as well. So, but like I said, right now I'm doing this mainly kind of fix that symmetry, or not symmetry, the smoothing issue I was having right through here. So I don't want it to look so much like a shelf or like a defined top area or a flat top. I want to be nice and smooth. Now, you don't want to do it too much because if you try to start smoothing out areas, it could honestly very well collapse your mesh. So it just basically just keeps smoothing and smoothing and smoothing until like it just flattens out. You don't want to do that. So just be careful with it. Now, you can kind of see the difference there, like going over this area, smooth it out, this area, still a little bit flat, so I'm going through very gently, smooth, smooth, smooth. There, that looks much better. Now the back end is looking a little weird. I think we can just fix that by hand. You get the idea. Actually delete that face. Okay. Pull out this area right here. And just kind of trying to match this curve of the little sheath from the handle. Try to get that to look a little bit better. And honestly, I think that's probably as much as I can do with that piece. All right, so let's do the top jaw. Any questions before I go after that jaw? No, okay. So let's go through with another cube. And I'm gonna basically model this piece as a separate section, I think, from this piece here. I think to me that makes sense to go after as like a separate piece entirely. So that's why I'm not initially going to be doing it all together. All right, so we'll do that. There. Actually, you know what? We'll have a curve. Yeah, we'll have a curve around. Okay, this is going to get tricky. So that'll be kind of the general shape. Let's go ahead and take multi-cut. We'll start applying that curve to it. This right here will be good because I can kind of extrude down into the corner of that jaw. And then this one right here, I'm going to start doing that curve up here at the top. So something kind of like that. And then I need to grab that bottom face. So I'm going to just do a little selection, hold down Control, deselect, and I actually do have that bottom face right there. See? Control E, extrude down. There we go. All right, let's do multi-cut. A couple more times, so I kind of need to get that angle right there of that jaw. Yeah, actually, okay, that should be bad. So actually, that's gonna be pretty narrow right through here, like this top part of the jaw is actually pretty darn narrow. So we kind of shrink that up, and I'm gonna take these faces, and that's what I'm gonna extrude to like bring it down and then extrude it out to make that ripper piece, whatever, the teeth essentially. And then this piece right here. Extrude that out. And that'll be kind of that width portion right here. You guys with me? Okay. Take this, bring this out here. So go right here. Let's see. I think that'll make sense right there. Okay, so the teeth portion, honestly, geometry wise, they should be pretty simple. Or yeah, they should be relatively simple to do. But it's just gonna be a lot of them to work with. Let's get this above the teeth. Yeah, yeah. Although I've kind of limited it to where those edge loops are gonna go. They're mainly gonna go up and around.
Yeah.
So that's a positive like that. This one's gonna be interesting because it's gonna go back there and I don't want that. Because I'm eventually gonna join this piece to this one, and this is already pretty low res. Like there's not a lot of faces here, so like I don't feel like I need to throw a bunch of shit back there just to get it to connect. So I may actually need to redirect this guy up here. So that when I start throwing edge loops in, it goes up and around versus back. Again, trying to be conservative here with the edge looping. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking points of like the extruding for the job.
Hang on one second. So for the redirection, guys, I'm gonna be deleting this face, this edge right here. And then I'm gonna have to run just an extra edge loop out and around, so this will satisfactorily redirect it all the way around. Okay, continue with the question.
I forgot what the tool is called, but it's like you like outline.
Quad draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that over?
Over doing it this way?
Yeah.
You could. Yeah, you could sit there and you could quad draw the whole thing out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a million different ways to go about this. It's just you need to figure out which way works best for you. So I think this is a little bit, maybe a little bit more friendly towards someone who's just getting into modeling. The quad draw, quad draws fairly straightforward, but I think trying to keep track of a lot of topology can be kind of difficult with it sometimes. We will be using quad draw when we get to, definitely when we're doing character modeling. So we will have an opportunity to use that. And so you'll kind of get to see maybe what the benefits of it are. Okay.
Because I just remembered that and I was trying to think of what's the easiest to use.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say it depends on what you're trying to do and like how fast you want to do it, how effectively you want to do it. It's kind of like trying to do that Boolean method versus like just straight up modeling that hole. Like what's going to work better for you? All right, good. So now when I add in the extra ones, it'll work really well there. Okay. So I should be able to add in some edge loops. So I got what, two teeth, one tooth, kind of a half tooth. So we'll put one right here, put one right here, put one here. I'm just kind of popping in where there's gonna be ridges and valleys. That could work. Although that is a fair amount of topology up there, but at least it's somewhat limited in where it's hitting. Okay. Let's grab these edges. Let's just do it this way. Strokes. See, things are shifting a little bit, so it's a little weird.
Perspective. Come on. So it's a fair number of teeth. Now, if at 3, it gets very soft. Probably should reinforce these a little bit. Straighten these up. Okay. Little reinforcement edge here. Reinforcement edge there. So it actually is keeping its shape.
round it out just a little bit. It's fairly square, but there's just a little bit of a roundness to it. Okay. Right. So I'm gonna have to do the bottom jaws. And wouldn't you know it, they look an awful lot like the top jaws.
You could duplicate it.
Just could duplicate it. Could do it. So that will probably warrant some more time. You know, playing around, really kind of finalizing this shape, but yeah, you could absolutely just take this and duplicate it. And that could be the beginning point of your bottom jaw. For sure. So that'd be a great starting point. It's 10:40, so we're getting kind of close to the end of class. So you guys have any questions or anything you want clarification on? Yes, ma'am.
So whenever you were doing the job, you were using the multi-cut tool to make incisions and somehow you had it going like all the way around the object. How did you manage that?
If you hold down, when you're doing multi-cut and you hold down control, yeah, it'll act like an insert edge loop tool.
How are you bringing out that, short?
Right click, shift. And right click, control. Both of those bring up different tools. Yes, ma'am.
Video being available tonight on our video.
I'm sorry, what?
Will this video be available on YouTube today? So
Yeah, you asked me that earlier. Yeah, it's going up today. Yeah, this video will be up. I mean, I have class this afternoon, but when I get out of class. What other questions you guys have?
how's your day?
I'm sorry, I had 3 people talk. Who, someone in the back? Okay, what were you saying?
Oh, I just asked, how are you doing it?
I'm good. I've been awake since 4 o'clock this morning.
Lucky.
I don't know why, but other than that, I'm fine. All right, guys, why don't you guys go and work on your project for a little while, late 9 minutes. And we'll take a look. Critique is gonna be on Monday. So, you know, get this done as best you can. I'm gonna leave this in the classroom. Rosario's also gonna be using this for the project in his class. So do not take these. On top of the fact that, you know, 30 of us are using this for a project, these are my personal flyers. I do really like them. So please don't take them. But you're free to look at them as needed. All right.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
I think I got a little confused. So I figured out the multi-cut like edge loop tool thing.
Mhm.
How are